us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
This is the number 4 show. I'm sweating to become number 1. It's going to be very difficult. Ahead of me is Russell, the kid whose show is Digital Drive at noon. The young man at 20 who's never set foot in a schoolroom before. And here he is, our news director. So what is the world coming to, you wonder? Well, the world is changing. The world is decentralizing. The marketplace is asserting itself in many areas. The power of decentralization, of people doing their own thing, is spreading. And so Russell exemplifies this wonderful trend in the educational sector, the homeschool kid making good, helping run a radio station. And the world that we are coming into is seeing that intervention is a problem. The idea of better people, more educated people, more trained people, more licensed people, people with degrees, sitting in on your business, making your life more complicated, making it more costly, preventing you from expanding, preventing you from starting things, because they have the solution. That's the idea of the interventionist. And Republicans and Democrats are equally bad. They are both just, they've had it. They're all interventionists, almost to a man and a woman. And they are, I would like to think, bringing the country closer toward ruin. And our show, though, is about what to do on the other side of the ruinous process of the meltdown, or the great reckoning, if you will. There are different ways you can call it in the financial sector. And so we are having a very positive view. My name is David Tulis, and I'm arguing for the marketplace and local economy. And we are a pro-government station. I said that to a man yesterday I had a meeting with, and he was shocked to hear that. He said, no. And I said, well, indeed we are. We believe in government, starting with self-government. And if you, my listener, engage in self-government, and your family members do, well, we are on our way toward a freer society, a society where there's less death, less blood, less cost, less needless waste, less lost time. And that is ahead, and we have to look forward to it with great optimism on the other side of the crisis. As Professor Gary North, the great economist and writer, says, the other side of the crisis. How do we get there? We are looking forward to dramatic events in the future. Now, you, my listener, are a dad. I really appreciate that. And you are a businessman. I'm confident. If you're not a businessman but want to be, make sure you contact Bruce Krebs at Entrepreneur Source. He is the man to get you into a franchise. I have, in my line of work, I have my own idea of a business. It's not anybody's model. And yet if you don't have ideas for your own line of work, contact Bruce. He will get you into somebody else's business. You buy into the franchise and serve his customers that become your customers here in the Chattanooga area. We're going to talk now with Lindsey Drury, who is the founder of a chapter of an organization here in Chattanooga. It's a national group called the Birth Network, and she is the founding member of the Chattanooga Birth Network, and she wants to make an argument for non-intervention in an area that you, my listener, have almost forgotten about, and that is childbirth and the nourishing of the smallest people who are birthed by their moms and are waiting nourishment at every hour, it seems, and are wanting to love and be loved by you and your sweet wife. Lindsey, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, what is the Birth Network? What are you trying to accomplish in a nutshell?
So the Birth Network is all about the mother-friendly childbirth initiative, and what that is just trying to improve circumstances for mothers who are pregnant and mothers who give birth, and for the babies, quickly after birth.
You mean things need improvement? Do we not live in the most medically advanced society on earth?
We do live in one of the most medically advanced countries. However, we spend the most money on maternity care out of a lot of the other countries, developed countries.
Is that not good?
No, it's not good, because we still have an increasingly high C-section rate, and which is at 30% generally throughout our country. The World Health Organization recommends actually that it's at 15% or below. So whatever we're doing is not meeting the standards by any means.
So cesarean sections at the time of birth, that's an emergency action. It's an emergency action because some bad thing has happened prior to that decision, right? Why are these decisions made, and why it's such a number? I don't understand that.
Well, it should be an emergency action, and a lot of the interventions that do take place should be there to help improve the health of the mother and the baby. Unfortunately, right now, a lot of cesareans are, scheduled for the convenience of, the doctor, or there are things that take place to try to speed up the birthing process beforehand that can also lead to a cesarean.
Well, talk a little bit about these conveniences. What kind of rationales are offered and acted upon on the doctor's schedule?
Unfortunately, a lot of it's not too rational. A lot of it has to do with vacations, or if they're going to be out, or if there's a holiday coming up, they'll try to schedule it when it's a little bit more convenient for them to be able to be there, so they're not having to be there for long periods of time that the birthing process usually takes.
Is that because a doctor's involved and not let's say a midwife whose schedule might be more supple?
I don't think so necessarily. I've actually, I've attended a lot of births. I'm a birth photographer as well, and I've attended multiple births, and I have seen midwives perform interventions, just like I have seen OBs perform interventions. And there's even one OB in our area who is very mother and childbirth friendly, Dr. Sieber, and he's a wonderful doctor to be able to get in there and still definitely tries to stick to evidence-based care for the most part.
But cesareans are at a rate of 30%. That's 3 out of 10 births are very serious surgery that leave a scar on the mom's belly and prevent. I read recently that a study showed that the passage of the child through the birth canal brings important enzymes to that baby's skin and person that he doesn't get, or she doesn't get, during a cesarean section. Are there not other losses and gaps that come into that young person's life not having been born the normal way?
As you said, there's a lot of bacteria and things that the child gets as they pass through the vaginal canal and the birthing canal. But I was actually looking at the other day about baby's gut health. And your gut health, which is all the different bacteria within your intestines and things like that to help you process food and absorb nutrients, are one of the things that are really affected by breastfeeding and by not passing through the vaginal canal during the birthing process. And
is there not something that happens? Well, let me just ask you, what happens to the mom who can't push in the normal fashion, who can't labor over her birth? Is not labor a good thing somehow?
It can be. So if you go on my website, there's some birth photos that you can look at, and it's lindseyDruryphotography.com.
Wait, spell that.
LINDSEYDRURY photography, PHOTOGRAPHY.com.
And what is my listener going to see on your website?
So if you go to my portfolio, you'll see just a bunch of my photos that I like to take. But also below that, you'll see a link for birth photography. And you can click on that and you can go to one of the births that I've recently documented in the past year. And this birth was actually a home transfer birth. A lot of people see that as an emergency situation, but you'll see in this situation it was not. For a lot of moms who do give home birth and they have to be transferred, something is caught quite in advance to be able to go to the hospital. This mom in particular was in labor for a few days. I want to say for at least 72 hours before they decided to transfer her to the hospital for other help.
What happened there?
So she went in, and the first thing that they do in any birthing situation is they will hook you up to an IV just to be able to give you fluids throughout the process. That is one of the things that is not actually necessary. Moms can... That's
an intervention, you're saying.
It is. And it's uncomfortable. I don't think anybody really likes just walking around with an IV in their arm. And this is just to give fluids when the mom could be drinking water, during the birthing process. So then also you've got the monitors that they will strap to your belly to monitor the baby continuously. That is also an intervention that is performed, and it's not necessary. They have something called intermittent monitoring, which is monitoring the mother and the fetus and the baby every 15 minutes. So you can tell, if the baby is in distress, or you can tell if the mother's in distress. But But without the monitors on you, again, it allows the mom to be a little bit more comfortable to move as she sees fit during her birthing process.
And let's get straight. Let me get straight in my mind, Lindsey Drury, what this monitor does. It's an intervention because it invites other interventions, or is the putting of the measuring devices on the mother's belly, is that the intervention that's the danger? Where's the danger of this?
It's not necessarily a danger, but it's uncomfortable for the mom. So a lot of times once you have the monitors on and once you have the IV, unfortunately, moms can be stuck to the bed, and not by choice. A lot of times the nurses who come through, and kind of depending on who your nurse is, will request that you stay in the bed and on your back, which doesn't really help the birthing process at all. Of course, when anyone's in pain, everybody has their different pain management techniques. And a lot of times it's to move around, or especially, when you've got a baby and it's working on your hips, you want to be able to rock back and forth, or, just do different things to help ease that discomfort during that time. And unfortunately, being in the bed is not helpful for that process.
Well, I'm still not clear, Lindsey Drury, how the monitor itself invites interventions or is an intervention itself, because you said these are two crucial ones that often precipitate other medically unnecessary events, or events that are made to think that were made to think are necessary, but which really are not. How is the monitor? So the monitor is not necessarily one of the crucial ones, but it's one of the more uncomfortable ones that can have a mom, being in the bed. Some of the different things that can happen during the birthing process is the administration of Pitocin. If that is given, say, a little bit too early, or when the mom doesn't necessarily need it, the Pitocin contractions, I've heard, are much more intense and much more uncomfortable than natural contractions. So obviously, this can end up leading to an epidural because of the pain and the discomfort. So what's an epidural?
An epidural is when they're going to give you a spinal injection in your back. Well, it's a catheter actually they put in your back that continuously puts pain medication to numb you pretty much from the waist down. And when you're numb, what does that cause a problem for the birthing process? It really does, because your body can't feel exactly what's going on. So that can sometimes slow down the birthing process, which then would they would increase the Pitocin, which can kind of just, continuously give that vicious cycle of the Pitocin and the epidural medication. Does the Pitocin damage the baby or cause the baby's heart to race or do anything to the baby's body? Honestly, I'm not sure about any of that. I just know that giving Pitocin can increase the risk of cesarean because of all the different things that follow after that. So your idea, Lindsey Drury of the Chattanooga Birth Network, whom you, my listener, need to have your wife find out more about, especially if you are expecting or intend to be expecting. Your idea is that birth is not a problem. It's not an illness. It's not like a cancer that has something that has to be treated or brought under control by, you might say, by the government of the doctor. Is really a natural thing that could be done largely on one's own with a little help from a doula or a midwife. Yeah, it can be. If a mom is low risk, there's no reason that she shouldn't be able to have a home birth or a birthing center birth if that's what she chooses. However, this is not about, home birth or hospital birth. It's really about educating families and educating the parents on what their options are during the birthing process, and just to know that they have accurate information on hand. Now, you, Lindsey, you are married. You and your husband, Dan, have 2 children. Dan is 26 years old. You live off of Highway 58. Mm-hmm. He is a student of video game design, and it's online classes. And you have 2 children, Willow, what a wonderful name, Willow, who is 7 months old, and Stella, who is 3 years old. And you run a photography business, which is LindseyDruryPhotography.com, with a special interest in the marvels of giving birth. Tell us about Willow's birth, the most recent one. Where did that happen? What are some of the remarkable things that my listener might want to pass along to his wife as they talk about their pending baby? Yeah, well, I gave birth at my home, which was very comfortable for me. And so I went into labor at, I think, around 6 o'clock in the morning, and I had Willow by 10:14. So it was a very, very fast process. when I noticed I was in labor, I went and sat in the bathtub because warm water can definitely help with pain reduction. So I just went in there and really focused on having a baby and things like that. I figured I hadn't been in labor long enough and my water hadn't broken. So I didn't think it was time. So I asked my midwife, I was like, I'm feeling like I may need to start pushing now. And she checked me and she said I was good to go. And then within 2 to 3 pushes, my husband was able to catch my daughter in his hands on our bed.
Now, say something about midwifery. Who are midwives? Are they somehow regulated by the state? Are they free market agents? Who are they, and why might my listener want to consider having a midwife as opposed to a doctor?
Well, it's not. You have to find the midwife that's correct for you. You have 2 types of midwives. You have a certified professional midwife, which can work outside of the hospital and can do home births and things like that. And then you also have the certified nurse midwife, who is the midwife who works from the hospital and is in local practices. And it really just depends on the person, on the different types of interventions they like to do. Typically, certified professional midwives are a little bit more natural minded. Obviously, if you're in a home birth environment or home birth setting, you're not going to have the pain management techniques like the epidural and different drugs like that to be able to, have pain management. So typically, midwives will do their best to delay any interventions that aren't needed,
Well, the listener who has perhaps a more traditional view of birth as something that's done in a very high-tech sector in the hospital, surrounded by computer equipment on rollers, his view is that, well, it's dangerous, and you're low risk, but something could happen, and so we might need to get you to the hospital in a rush. How for the safety of the baby, right? Well, how often does that happen? In most likelihood, is my listener in that category that he has to always be near the doctor and in a high-tech setting?
Well, I mean, and that's up to the comfort of that person. There are mothers who are low risk and who would not feel comfortable birthing in their home for those reasons. So they do need to be in a hospital. If you have any stress, or if you can't relax during the birthing process, more than likely that will extend your birthing process. So if you're in a situation to where you can't relax, then you're probably going to have a longer labor. But being in the hospital, around all the different things, like I said, there's a lot more interventions that happen within the hospital and within the medical community. So you don't necessarily, get all of the information either from the doctors and your providers. When they should tell you the benefits, the risks, and what would happen if you don't do anything at all. And from there, the parents should be able to make those decisions for themselves.
So doing nothing is not necessarily a non-decision. That is a decision.
Correct.
Right? It's something. It's a deliberate policy, sort of.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, when my wife and I, my wife Jeanette and I have 4 children, and we had all of them at a hospital with a midwife, and we had a birth plan. What is that about? A birth plan? Is that something that's just a passing phase, or is it a valuable tool possibly for my listener and his wife?
It's definitely a valuable tool to be able to have a birth plan, so you know what to expect if you do go into a hospital environment. And in general, if you're a home environment, you and your midwife have talked over your birth plan. But if you're in a hospital environment, you have nurses and different care providers who come in who you may not know and you may not have met before. So if you have a birth plan, it just kind of lets them know, say right after the baby's born, some people choose not to wash the baby because, as you were saying earlier, they have something called vernix on their skin.
Vernix.
Yeah, the white sticky stuff that's on their skin right after, and it's got a ton of great bacteria in it, and it's actually a great barrier for viruses and bacteria and things like that. So it's not something that personally I would want to wash off my baby, but they do ask you to do that, or they will wear gloves to make sure that there's nothing spread between the care providers and the baby. Well,
hospitals no longer pass out nice bags that have in them diapers and artificial milk. What's wrong with artificial milk, and is it easy for my listener's wife to get hooked on the intervention of manufactured milk?
It's not necessarily always bad to have formula, but breast milk is definitely the best thing that you can do for your child. It's going to pass along a lot of great micro antibodies and different things to your baby so they don't get sick that the mother already has. And then it's also going to, it's been shown to increase the IQ of children. It reduces the risk of cancer to the mother and to the baby, specifically breast cancer for the moms. So it's beneficial to both. Obviously, it doesn't cost anything. So it's wonderful, and it's constantly changing. Human milk is one of the milk that is constantly changing. It is based on the mother and the child that they're feeding at that moment in time. Males actually receive 25% more energy content in breast milk than females do. Isn't that interesting? I'm not sure why, and I'm not sure exactly what the energy content is, but it was really interesting to see how the mother's milk changes, for the specific baby.
This is David Tulis. We're talking with Lindsey Drury, who's a photographer here in Chattanooga. She runs lindseydruryphotography.com and specializes in photographing the births of children. And we're gonna talk more with her, and we're gonna find out more about breast milk. Breast milk is truly a marvel, and yet we, in our national economy perspective, think that no, we cannot have a local economy product made by the mother for the baby. We have to go to Switzerland and have Nestle can products full of many wonderful ingredients. This is David Tulis, and I do thank you for giving us a minute of your time. We're talking with Lindsey Drury, who is a photographer, and she's involving herself with a terrific chapter of an organization. It's a national organization, and the chapter that Lindsey has started here is the Chattanooga Birth Network. And you think, what does that have to do with me? This is the Guy station. Come on, David, let's get to some masculine topics for once, okay? Well, you, my listener, need to think about having children. Need to think about being pro-natalist and not being content with 2.5 children, but maybe having another one, right? If God blesses you, even though you may not believe in God, He does bless every man and his wife with children. It is a blessing, regardless of what you believe about God. It is a blessing, and I would put the best on that as it could be done. Now, Lindsey, tell us about this birth network and an event coming up October 17.
Yeah, we've got the Birth and Wellness Expo coming up, and what we're trying to do is just spread evidence-based information about childbirth to help improve the childbirth process and experience for the mothers and the babies. On October 17th, we're going to be out at Camp Jordan from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. with different guest speakers and a bunch of different local vendors. We're still looking for vendors and sponsors. If you're interested in doing something like that, we're going to have a special area just for dads to be able to hang out, to be able to get some wellness techniques and techniques on their workouts and things like that, and hopefully some other. Hopefully we're going to have a TV with some football on, so y'all don't get too...
that you're just encouraging the old habits that we're trying to get our listener to break, Lindsey.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Okay. So maybe golf? Is that a good one? So we're going to have some different areas for dads, though, and then some different areas for moms to be able to get mommy and me portraits done, and some fun things for kids as well.
Now, your whole idea of the Birth Network is you're encouraging birth, you're encouraging, of course, conception that precedes birth, and your whole idea is very positive. You have the idea that, well, birth is a natural thing. It's not a sickness. It's not something that's broken. It's not something that has to have intervention by medical experts necessarily. It's generally it's a very healthy and good thing. It's a wonderful thing, and it can even be done at home. Well, say something, Lindsey. You're very concerned about my listener's wife being seduced by the Similac world, by the formula world, forgetting that she is an ample and wonderful supplier of milk herself.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of formula companies choose to advertise a lot before a baby comes. So you're seeing the bottles in your mail, and you also get cans of formula. When you go to different doctor's offices and hospitals, you're seeing Similac and different Pfizer companies, who promote formula and who are really trying to get that out there. Unfortunately, not everything in formula is as healthy as it could be for babies, and formula is definitely great for moms and families who can't breastfeed or can't find any breast milk to be able to be used for their baby. It is a great option for some, but breast milk is always best. There's a lot of great things in breast milk, like we were talking about earlier, like the antibodies that you're going to get from from the mother that are passing down to the child. I was actually reading. I had what is it? Chicken pox, but not chicken pox as an adult. What is that called?
I can't help you. Go ahead.
Okay, I can't think of
We'll remember later.
Yeah. But so I was worried about my daughter, my 7-month-old at the time. She was probably about 3 or 4 months old.
Her name is Willow.
Yes, I was worried about Willow getting chicken pox. And as I was reading through this, she's actually all of the antibodies from my body from having chicken pox. She's got those antibodies. So it's actually very uncommon for an infant to get chicken pox or, a lot of things like that the mother will already have antibodies for.
And they're passed on by natural childbirth, that a passing on of antibodies that is omitted in the cesarean section, which happens, you say, among 1/3 of births here in Chattanooga.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. Unfortunately, I think our the cesarean rate in Chattanooga may be a little bit higher than just the 30%. But as we were talking about earlier, the World Health Organization recommends only 15% or below. So there's still a lot of things that can be done to help reduce those cesareans that can reduce the interventions and obviously make the birthing process a wonderful and beautiful experience, an empowering experience for the mom and the dad as well.
Does breast milk and breastfeeding make a child bolder, more willing to explore, more willing to meet new things, have new experiences, or do those benefits come by drinking artificial milk? Talk about the relationship between the mom and the nursing baby, please.
Well, the relationship is amazing. That's really all there is to it. I've talked to moms who have done both formula and who have breastfed, and they say they have a lot closer of a bond to their breastfed baby. And it's not that you love them more, but you just feel that closeness of the constant being able to feed them and being able to nourish them. That knowing that you didn't only grow this life, but you are able to sustain it with just yourself is an amazing feeling. And I know it can be hard for dads because they feel like they can be left out sometimes of the breastfeeding process. But skin to skin is one thing that is a great way for dads to build a relationship with their young child. And that's pretty much just going shirtless and having the baby completely naked up. You can have a diaper on. Have a diaper on the baby, obviously, but just having that skin to skin time to where that baby can hear your heartbeat and they can smell you, to where you're really, you really have that bond.
And so what you're suggesting, Lindsey Drury of Chattanooga Birth Network, is that relationship has benefit to the child as he grows up.
Definitely. And I know a lot of breastfed parents do something called attachment parenting. Which also has to do with baby wearing, which is wearing the baby on you quite often, and just not letting them cry it out, cry a lot, and just being there for them. Within the first year, I can't imagine what it would be like coming out of your mom's womb in the first year of life. There's a lot of new experiences, a lot of crazy things that happen. And I did do attachment parenting with my oldest daughter, and Stella. Yes, Stella, and who's
age 3.
Yeah, she's 3 now, and they can be very clingy in the beginning, and she was very shy in the beginning around 1.5. But she has completely come out of her shell. We actually did a pageant with her not too long ago, probably about 6 or 7 months ago, and she was the only one to get out there and step up in the middle of the stage while all her peers, were standing next to their parents and still holding on to their parents. So I definitely feel like parenting and breastfeeding and that closeness can really help them to be independent later on in life, and to know that even just you being there, you're supporting them.
We're talking with Lindsey Drury. This is David Tulis. Lindsey has started Chattanooga Birth Network. She's also a photographer. Now, Lindsey, I'm holding up for the man who's watching us on the YouTube channel. We are at YouTube at Hot News Talk Radio. It's a photograph of 4 children. Who are these? Describe what we're seeing, the background, who they are, and where this picture came to be made.
This picture was actually taken at Heritage Park, which is a great local park that has got a lot of different sceneries in it. But so she was pregnant, obviously, and we were doing a maternity shot. This is Kara Hicks. She's actually with Momentum.
Okay, so the largest the person is the mom. I'm sorry, I didn't see that correctly.
Yeah, it's okay. This is a mom, and she's pregnant. It's kind of hard to tell in white shirts, the belly, but she's holding her belly underneath. And her name is Kara Hicks, and she actually runs a program. It's called Momentum. Momentum. And it is to help single moms go back to school. go to college. She was a single mom herself with her oldest son here, and it was really hard for her to get back in college and to get that degree. So she really tries to help single moms do that now.
Well, the photograph, tell about the other people in the photograph. There's a very small boy who's got his hands together, and next to him is looks like his sister. She's holding one hand sort of tentatively in front of a flowered skirt that's blue, and her other hand is held by the wrist by her much larger brother.
Yeah, so he was obviously born first. He's the oldest son, and like I said, she was a single mom with him, and then later on met her husband, and they had these two beautiful, now three beautiful children. But so she's got all that experience as a single mom, you know. So you don't see that here, but she's definitely.
Well, now tell us about your work as a photographer. How many frames did you take of these people here, more or less? And why did you have looks like a wooden clapboard background, red. It's red wood. Why here, and what were you trying to accomplish with this picture? What was the light source?
The light source was the sun. I try to do all of my my lighting naturally by the sun. I do some in studio work, but I like. Did you
have a screen of some kind to dilute the sunlight, or to spread it, or to avoid harsh shadows under the eyes? Is that not a problem?
It is. It can be a problem outdoors. I shoot at specific times during the day. I tend to shoot at the evening. In the evening, generally after 6 o'clock, and I really love shooting around sunset because you can get this beautiful silhouette.
Well, that, and also I think if you have a photograph taken of someone in the evening, the sunlight's coming into the person's eyes. There's not an eye shadow, and you can sort of see the colors, and you can almost see into the person's soul if you want to imagine that.
Yeah, definitely. And the golden tones, you know, as it hits dusk, it really brings out the golden tones and all the different tan colors in anyone's skin. It's really beautiful.
Well, what is it hard taking pictures of a woman who's giving birth? Are you in her way? Does she find you annoying? How do you do your job and really get into the story and yet not be in her way? How does that work?
So one of the things I tell moms and families whenever I go to whenever we even start talking about birth photography is that I'm a mother and I'm a woman first. So I am there for support also, you know, as well to document this beautiful moment in your life. And I will be as interactive or step back as much as, you know, they prefer me to.
So you ask about that.
Yeah, definitely. I always sit down with all of my clients before any type of session just to make sure that they are getting exactly what they want out of their portraits, because that's obviously important. That's why you hire a photographer, you know, is to capture those moments.
Well, Lindsey, you care a great deal about children. Say something about what you might have seen regarding the Planned Parenthood videos and the destruction of children who are often destroyed just before they would be born, or they are born and then destroyed. What does that story tell you about American culture and the American way? And is there some kind of lie that Planned Parenthood tells people about the arrival of new life on the earth?
Well, the major thing that I pulled out of that is because it's definitely horrendous what's happening, and personally, I don't condone abortions, but that is something that is an option, you know, for the women within our society, obviously. But you know, just trying to say that at some point this tissue is not a human. And then, you know, coming afterwards and being like, oh, okay, now we're trying to sell, you know, or distribute, or however it is, you know, the human aspect of those organs and things. It was very disturbing. So
it's very disturbing. And your goal by having records of births is really just the opposite. You're trying to show that to be born is a wonderful, exciting thing. And it can be so not just for the woman who's pushing and receiving her child and her husband, but for anybody else who sees those pictures. And some of these pictures may indeed be published later, right? Or how do people, what happens when people buy a sequence of photographs from you, Lindsey Drury?
Well, when it's birth photography, like I said, I always sit down with my birth photography clients beforehand, and we discuss what types of portraits they want, whether to be graphic or not, and how much detail they want. And then we discuss, you know, obviously how the portraits will be shared after that. I do have an awesome birth project going on right now. Unfortunately, I'm not able to photograph for it right now because of my 7-month-old, you know, who still breastfeeds. But being at a birth, you know, continuously from the very beginning to the very end and documenting the whole entire process, my goal is to document a bunch of different types of births and then put them all into a book so that anybody who is interested in a hospital birth, a home birth, a natural birth, or a C-section birth, or, whatever it happens to be, can see these different things side by side and, really try to make those educated decisions for themselves.
As to what, having the book and buying the book, or showing it to the world, or publishing these images on Facebook, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, eventually I will hopefully put books together. And I do have some birth photography on my website. And these are obviously births that the parents have said it's okay for me to be able to share. Because it's important to share those things too, so people can really visualize what a birth can look like.
Well, my name is David Tulis, and our show covers a great topic, which is local economy and the free market. And one of the main ideas of that is non-interventionism. It seems to me that there's more prosperity, greater capital can be created if we don't have intervention. And the intervention that you, my listener, are often greatly concerned about is that of government into the private sector or into the for-profit sector, and in which you're told what to do by officials. What you're calling is somehow licensed or controlled or regulated, and of course it's taxed. And there are all kinds of efforts to make you do certain things and not to do other things. And so what we have is really the exercise of compulsion in the marketplace. And that's why our argument here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio is that you need to get prepared for a coming disaster. And I think that the shape of that disaster is financial, and it's brought about by government intervention in capital markets, in the corporate sector. And the players are all very, very big. You have gigantic corporate players who are often walking zombies. They are corporations which should have disappeared in bankruptcy, and yet they're still there. Again, kept alive by artificial means, by intervention. So Lindsey Drury, in her work, is arguing for natural birth. She's arguing for, if the mom and dad want, if you want, my listener, home birth, without the idea that what's happening there is something that's broken and needs to be fixed, and needs someone to come in, an expert to come in with technology and medications and whatnot to bring that child to birth. And so I think, let me ask you, Lindsey, is your argument for a more natural way of birth and breastfeeding, are people receptive to this? Why are they, if they are, why are they receptive?
Well, it's not necessarily just about natural birth. It's just about being educated on what your decisions are and what your choices are. So a lot of times when they're trying to speed up the birthing process for any woman, they will do something called stripping her membranes, which can be done at the doctor. And that's where they go inside and manually, the doctor will insert his hands and manually strip, I believe her cervical membranes or her uterine membranes, to be able to just speed up the process a little bit more. And that's something that can obviously send your body into labor when it's not necessarily ready. One thing that interventions, the reason you don't need interventions is because your body and your baby know when it's time to go into the birthing process. Your body's not going to set that process in motion until both your body and your baby are ready. So even if you were to say get an induction, some people choose to do that for a specific date or for other unnecessary reasons. There are necessary reasons, obviously, to be induced. But they're generally rare. They are rare, and it's the health of the baby and the mom is what you should always definitely look at whenever you seek to do any type of intervention with your care. But having an induction in the Pitocin and starting artificial contractions, just because the contractions start does not mean that your body and that your baby are ready for the birthing process. So regardless, the woman's body is still not going to progress how it's supposed to, which inevitably can lead to a C-section. A C-section, or the use of the epidural, which numbs the pain, which then that retards the birth process, which then creates stress for the infant often. Yeah, it can, and which can also lead to a C-section. Well, Lindsey Drury, how can my listener contact you, please? You can contact me at lindseyduryphotography.com. And that's Drury, D-R-U-R-Y, Lindsey Drury, Lindsey with an E. Yes, and chatbn.wordpress.org. Say that again. chatbn.wordpress.com. This is David Tulis, and Lindsey, thanks for joining us.